It's back to business in the fantasy hockey game, and that's why you're tuned and tapped right back into your daily source for fantasy takes, NHL news, and betting breakdowns, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Your Monday source for all the waiver wire targets that you need to dominate this upcoming week, and of course, big time bets. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Buckle up and here we go, hockey heads. The NHL season is back full steam ahead for the second half, and you are here for your 30-minute source for everything that you need to know to dominate your fantasy hockey leagues. It's the Monday edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. We got to show some love and a salute to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. I am joined, as always, by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Rodin. On this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone, here to make sure you are ready for another big week of fantasy hockey. We'll wrap up the show with big time bets, but we got a couple of nice, juicy, tasty, however you want to term it, Steele, some very attractive targets for the upcoming week. As always, coming in hot after a big weekend of NHL action. Over to you. Who are you looking at? I've got a couple of players here, some lesser owned, some more so, but they're all attracting my gaze right now.
Well, let's start with the big bad bruiser on the blue line for the Anaheim Ducks. I'm looking at Radko Gudas for this upcoming week. 4 games on the schedule for the Anaheim Ducks. It's going to be a tough one for them, but I think there's going to be a lot of physicality in these matchups. They play against the New Jersey Devils, the Winnipeg Jets, the Edmonton Oilers, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So you know he's going to be throwing his weight around. Not a lot of offensive production, as we know from this type of player. Gudas only has 7 points on the season, all of them being 7 assists, but he actually has 4 of them in his last 5 games. So he has been a little bit more offensive minded in the last week for the Anaheim Ducks, but it's really those peripheral categories you're looking at with this player. Again, only 30 shots on net. He doesn't shoot the puck a lot, but 76 blocks, 108 hits, and 42 penalty minutes. So if you're in a banger league, you count those penalty minutes, those hits, the blocks, obviously, they all add up. Radko Gudas is a phenomenal player who brings that value in those categories. I believe only rostered at 25% on Yahoo, 35% on ESPN. So he's definitely out there in most leagues. I've got him in a few, and he just helps out filling out, the overall aspect of the fantasy weekly matchups.
And it's got to be a plug and play type of situation right now. Through this portion of the schedule, you've got to get kind of analytical with it. Sometimes you might already be out of it, like your boy. You're going to have to get lucky with the moves. But if you are someone within striking distance of those first few spots in your league and you've had a great start, now it's time to really hone in on some of these situations. And the Ducks schedule, a team that, is going to continue to have a lot of growing pains, but much like another team that we've spoken about a lot that I'll get to later in the episode, like a Columbus Blue Jackets, sooner than later, the value is going to pop, and the Ducks are going to get there, especially on the blue line. I like that you're talking about Radko Gudas. Look, that was a big performance from the Washington Capitals on Saturday night. We spoke about their record without Ovechkin. I believe they were 10-5-1 in the 16 games that he missed, and he's back. All the things that we spoke about on yesterday's episode held true, and it's one game, but it's still something you got to pay attention to. Ovi back in the lineup. He was ready to ride. The impact on the rest of the team and the value around him, Mangiapane, Protest, PLD, any of those guys in the top 6, and I'm looking kind of squarely at his wingmen right now, Protest and up the middle, PLD. 53 for Protus on Fantrax, 26 on Yahoo, 18 on ESPN, and very similar numbers for PLD, right down to actually 1 or 2%. So depending on the format, it might be trickier, but I want a piece of the Washington Capitals over the next few weeks. And the next week, Bruins, Wild, Rangers, bit of a mixed bag, but aside from the Wild, both the Bruins and Rangers are having fits right now, allowing goals. So I want a piece of the Washington Capitals because we know Ovi is going to be hungry to put that puck in the net. And just by association, I think that's going to be a good thing. This Protus kid, 30 points in 35 games, Steele. He has had a really good season, 6'6", big lad. He's only got 63 shots on net. and the peripherals don't jump off the page, but based solely on the fact that the grade 8 is back and anchoring that top line, both of those guys get a little bit of power play time as well, mostly PLD. Anyway, you know the angle I'm looking at here. If the Washington Capitals continue to play how they are, you're going to want a piece of them in some aspect.
He's been such a surprise for the Washington Capitals. I mean, I did not expect this from Protas this season. I mean, even going in the same breath, Connor McMichael with the season he's had, he's really overachieved from what I thought he was going to do this season. He's been fantastic. I think you could look at some of the other guys around the Washington Capitals. Like you said, you could get a piece anywhere. A few times this season, I've picked up Trevor Van Riemsdyk. I've picked up Rasmus Sandin on the blue line, who help out in those categories for defensemen. So the Washington Capitals are running right now. They are a top team in the Metropolitan Division. And now that they have Ovechkin back, they're not going to look anything forward.
And I did butcher that a bit. I meant to say Dylan Strome up the middle as well. I know the ownership numbers will be much, much higher. But the bottom line remains, anyone around Ovi, I want a piece right now. So let me just kind of
you want a piece of the Washington Capitals is what we're getting at, because they have been nothing but phenomenal so far this season. Real quickly, one of my players, we talked about him a few episodes ago. In the same breath when we were talking about Owen Tippett. I think Morgan Frost is a guy that people should be looking at right now as well. 4 points in his last 4 games. He's finding a little bit of a groove offensively, a lot more confidence with his game. 16 points in 32 games so far this year, 7 goals, 9 assists. Getting a little bit more playing time. However, the last 2 games, he was actually under 14 minutes in both those matches against Pittsburgh and the Anaheim Ducks. But he's getting a lot of opportunity. Again, I just think with him, there's a lot of inconsistency where one game he's there and one game he's just not. I mean, in between the ears, he just doesn't seem to have the confidence on a consistent basis. But in the last 4 games, he's been very productive for the Philadelphia Flyers. So I really like Morgan Frost along with some of those other guys in that top 6 group right now for Philly, like we talked about with Owen Tippett. I just think when he can get going, this team really has a good path and a good direction of where they're headed. Especially again, I'm kind of getting turned around with John Tortorella at the helm right now. So I'm feeling Philly. I know it's been a little bit rough to support them over the last few seasons, but with some of these players that they've got, if they can just elevate their game to the next level, all of them, then this is a team to watch out for.
The holiday spirit just warming hearts across the fantasy realm.
His heart grew 3 times size.
We even got love for torts at this time of year, and I love it. I got a couple of more targets ready to ride after the break, 2 forwards and a D-man. We got a 3-game betting board, but I got picks ready to ride. I'm going to turn it over to the guru once again, see if we can stack a little bit more of this loot. Before we swing into the new year, we will be taking a couple of days break here for the boys to step away, but we will be right back in the new year with everything that you need to know to dominate these leagues. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about that you were paying for twice? This has legitimately happened to me, Steele, multiple times. Subscriptions that you forget about, they fall off the radar, but that credit card's still taking the hits. It's like having a personal assistant for your finance with Rocket Money. Make sure you cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Rocket Money will save you cash, so hit rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. Tap in and save some cash.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Make sure you share with your friends and family out there. Hit the subscribe button, the follow button, and leave that 5-star review. Flip, and I appreciate all that love and support you've been showing us throughout the year 2024. We want that going into 2025. So thank you so much. We couldn't be doing this with all of our listeners out there.
Fact.
Big time bets coming up at the end of the episode, continuing on the waiver wire conversation. Just to wrap up on Morgan Frost, the Philadelphia Flyers do have 3 games this week. They play the San Jose Sharks, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. All 3 games are on the road, and Morgan Frost being a Ontario native, Toronto native, they like, anyone born from Toronto, they like coming back and playing at Scotiabank Arena. So that's just a little bit of a different angle that I want to throw in there. But Morgan Frost, Philadelphia Flyers, 3 games this week.
Love it. And I alluded to this team earlier. The Columbus Blue Jackets have been the prototypical plug and play stream options. And a player that I think, last year we talked about that trio of young Russians that we like, Voronkov, Chinnikov, and Marchenko. And right now it's Dmitry Voronkov that's catching some of my attention. He is first and foremost red hot. He has 4 goals and 4 assists in his last 5 games. The ice time is up. He plays with a bit of an edge. He's not scared to mix it up. He's got the PIMS up there on the year, Steele, 30 penalty minutes, and right now getting deployed on the top line with Sean Monahan and Kirill Marchenko. I believe also he is. He's on the top power play unit. That's a full stop moment for me because the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're a top 10 offensive unit. They are 9th in the NHL in goal scoring, and they can get it done. Canes, Red Wings, and Blues. Aside from the Canes, I like the opportunity here for Columbus to have a pretty big week. His ownership on ESPN has doubled in the last 5 days, up to only 12%, though, 19 on Yahoo and 43 on Fantrax. This is a guy that I am pretty certain will be out there in your league. And even with, this might be one of those ones that while he is this hot steal and the Jackets continue to score, I might hang on to him for a week or two and go from there. Or if you have other options starting to pop and he's cold this week, you have no problem dropping him again. However, this one is one of my favorite ads for the week. Voronkov, red hot, top line, top power play unit. I don't think I need to say much more.
Look, this is a Columbus team with a lot of players that, a year or two from now, we're going to be talking about them as a fantasy gold mine. And
I agree.
There's going to be a lot of we talk about pick and play, stream and play with a lot of these guys right now. They're going to be a lot more Columbus Blue Jacket players being held on fantasy hockey teams for the entire season. So yes. I love the fact that you're talking about Voronkov. We've talked about Columbus at length this season about a lot of the value they have right now.
Shout out to Troy.
Yeah, shout out to Troy out there, the vape god, the Columbus Blue Jackets fan out there. They're killing it right now, and there's a lot to be happy with in Columbus. Out west, I need to go back out west to the Calgary Flames, talk about Jonathan Huberdeau for a minute. This season, Huberdeau rostered at 36% on Yahoo, 50% on ESPN, so a little bit tougher to pick him up off the waiver wire on that platform, but he's been fantastic for the Calgary Flames in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. 6 points in his last 4 games. He's up to 27 points total this season in 35, 15 goals, 12 assists. He's shooting at a 23.8% right now, which is by far his career high. Absolutely incredible that it's up there right now.
It is
oozing confidence. He's oozing this aura, this godlike.
Should we say he's back, Steele? Is he back?
I think he might be back.
I think he might be back.
Look, he's been fun to watch. And I know, like you talked about, he's been thrown up and down the lineup. They've been trying to figure out who he matches with and has the best chemistry with. He's been back with Nazem Kadri, and they've been very, very good with each other since returning back on the same line. So Jonathan Huberdeau has been very, very good for the Calgary Flames. 23 hits, 28 blocks, 63 shots on net. There's still a lot to be desired with his game right now, but he's really become like a power forward for the Calgary Flames, which is unlike what we've seen him do in the past. I mean, there's been times, his first season with Calgary, the times he was with Florida, he's very, kept to the outside on the perimeter of the puck. Now he's digging, he's winning these battles in the corners, he's fighting for the puck, and he's coming up with it more often than not. So he's become a little bit of a power forward for the Calgary Flames in the offensive zone, and he's doing what he does best, setting up his teammates, but now he's shooting the puck and scoring goals on a more consistent basis. So I like Jonathan Huberdeau. The Calgary Flames, they have 3 games this upcoming week. The Vancouver Canucks, the Utah Hockey Club, and the Nashville Predators. All 3 games are in Calgary, so very advantageous week for Jonathan Huberdeau and the Flames.
Sounds like you want to get a piece of the Flames this week. I like to say that sometimes it's going to be easier said than done, and that's the case with this next player and team. But given that the Flames are nipping at the heels there, Steele, of the Canucks in 4th and very much alive for a playoff spot, this is a team that actually, from some of the games that I've caught, they seem to be a bit of a fun bunch to watch. 5-2-3 in their last 10. They got Dustin Wolf doing his thing. So that's a team that I'm paying attention to, and for quite obvious reasons. And again, this will be a little bit more difficult because of the ownership, but I want a piece of the Winnipeg Jets so badly for a few reasons. First and foremost, they lead the NHL in scoring, 137 goals for. They lead the NHL in power play proficiency, clicking over 30%. This is clearly the best unit in the league. And right now on that top line, along with two studs, Scheifele and Connor are having great seasons. It's Gabe Vilardi once again. And I know that the ownership is going to be tough. 86 on Fantrax, not happening. But only 47 on ESPN and 50 on Yahoo. That makes no sense for me for the guy as the third piece on the top line for the best team in the NHL and the most dangerous offensive unit. That have 4 games this week, Steele. And let me hit you with those. Predators, Ducks, Red Wings, and Colorado Avalanche. And we know Mackenzie Blackwood's been better, but those are 4 games that this offense that's cooking, they might explode this week. So if it's not Gabe Vilardi, you can't catch him. Try to go for some more peripheral pieces. You'll have to go down that lineup, but I see a big week on tap for the Winnipeg Jets. So I had to throw some love to Gabe Vilardi. I got 2 more players on the same team, but I think you can back me up that if it's not Vilardi, take a shot on someone else out there on the Jets. I don't know how, but I want a piece of the Jets this week real bad.
Well, that goes perfectly with my big time bet, same game parlay coming up at the end of the episode. That has been the best line in the National Hockey League this season. Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, and Gabriel Vilardi have been absolutely killing it for your fantasy hockey teams this year. We'll get to big time bets. Flip, if you want, you can just rattle off those 2 last players, and then we'll get over to those Monday bets.
Those coaching changes don't always have the impact that you want to have, but it's seeming to me that, and the St. Louis Blues don't jump off the page really anywhere across the board, but they are 17, 16, and 4 over their last 10. They have gone up and down with Monty behind the bench, but they are playing much better hockey, in my opinion. 4-4-2 in their last 10 games. And when I look at a couple of these pieces that are more recent additions to the Blues, Cam Fowler has turned it on since going to St. Louis. He is on the top pairing with Colton Parayko. I love that. He is on the top power play. He's putting up points, and his ownership and minutes are up. So Cam Fowler, they got the Blackhawks, Sens, and Blue Jackets this week. Good week for the Blues. And I look at Dylan Holloway, who's red hot, a very good player, in my opinion, Steele. Both of these guys are out there in your leagues. And when I look at what's going on in St. Louis, I believe Holloway's playing with Kyrou and Shen on that second line as well. I love that for him. That's a nice little balanced line. He's getting some looks on the second power play as well. So the deployment is there. Both players are red hot. Big performances over their last couple of games. The ownership is favorable as well. Add in Jackets, Sens, and Blackhawks. I'm going to be taking a shot on some St. Louis Blues players this week, most definitely.
Yeah, Monty has really turned that team around, and that's what a new head coach can do. Maybe that's exactly what Todd McClellan is able to do with the Detroit Red Wings.
We will see.
We would love to see that.
Yeah.
So, coaching change can always make the difference. Cam Fowler, a good pickup for this upcoming week. We're going to get to big time bets very, very shortly. Make sure you're staying tuned in all week, especially for the New Year's Eve special. Flip and I are going to be breaking down so much across the National Hockey League and your fantasy hockey leagues. You've got to be staying tuned in for that. But make sure you're staying tuned in next for big time bets. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. We really could not be doing this without all of our listeners out there. So thank you so much. Continue to leave the comments on the YouTube channel. On Twitter, you can find us as well. Leave the comments, concerns, opinions, statements, whatever you feel like. We really do appreciate it. Over to big time bets, where the money is made. Flip, we're getting after it. Yes. I'm feeling good heading into 2025. I think we'll absolutely kill it in the remainder of the hockey season. Over to you, my friend. I believe there's only 3 games on the schedule. 3 or 4 games, Flip?
We got 3 games.
3 games on the schedule.
I actually think these are some pretty juicy games, and I know the Utah Hockey Club and the Seattle Kraken don't jump off the page. But from what I saw from that big come-from-behind victory from the Seattle Kraken, and I know the Vancouver Canucks did their best botch job on that one, that is a very big kind of come-together, galvanizing moment for a team in Seattle that has been pretty much a disappointment for the most of the this season, and they had reeled off 5 ugly losses in a row before that one. So I think this is a bit of a turning point. At home to Utah, I love this spot for Seattle. I got to pick from each game to spread things out, and I'll spit them out real quick. Kraken at home is the first one. Rangers at Florida. This one jumps off the page for me as an under, but also Florida is 7-0-3 in their last 10, so I'd lean to the Cats, even though they've been a bit up and down. The under has hit in 6 of 7. With these two going head-to-head, it screams under. Both of these teams need to be better defensively, and I'm going to ride with the recent trends, and I'll finish with this. The Nashville Predators have actually given the Winnipeg Jets fits over the last 10. They have played well, but some of those teams, these matchup numbers don't always correlate to what's happening right now on the ice. You and I love bringing up the recent numbers because they do hold water. But here, with how good the Winnipeg Jets are right now and what the Nashville Predators are doing, I just do not see it. And if I get cooked, I get cooked. But I'm going to go with the Winnipeg Jets. And because this is a parlay, I'll cop out. I'll take the doo-doo odds. I'm fine with it. I'll go with the Winnipeg Jets on the money line. I'll go with the under in that Florida-New York game. And I'm going to ride with the Kraken at home against Utah. And I'm going to smash those three together and get a little bit of loot going.
Yeah, I wasn't as giddy about these 3 games on Monday.
You know me, I'm a degenerate.
I wasn't really feeling that Utah-Seattle game, especially after Seattle pooched my parlay on the weekend. Again, the Rangers just got absolutely dominated by the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Florida Panthers got shut out by the Montreal Canadiens. I'm staying away from that one. I've got a same-game parlay.
Love it.
From this Winnipeg Jets-Nashville Predators game. Like you said, the Preds have actually given the Winnipeg Jets fits in their last 10. I think the Winnipeg Jets are 3-4-3 in their last 10 when they go up against Nashville. However, like you said, sometimes it holds water. Sometimes there's a leakage, and this one's not holding water whatsoever. I'm with you on this one. Winnipeg Jets on the money line for my first pick. They're just the better team in this situation. We know the Preds have collapsed and choked in the third period countless times this season. I'm going with the Jets on the money line for the first pick. I'm parlaying that with these 2 player props here, and I think you could go with the anytime goal from both these players. However, I'm going to spice it up a little bit. I'm going to take the Kyle Connor 2+ points along with the Mark Scheifele 2+ points. These guys have been nothing but phenomenal and fantasy juggernauts the entire season. Both guys have 22 goals so far this year. Kyle Connor has a total of 49 points in 37 games. Kyle Connor also has 4 multi-point games in his last 5. Mark Scheifele also has 3 multi-point games in his last 5, with one of them being a 4-point outing against the Toronto Maple Leafs and a 3-point outing against the San Jose Sharks. So they're absolutely feeling themselves. Mark Scheifele also has 44 points in 37 games. Take that odd up to the 2+ points for both Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, and parlay that with the Winnipeg Jets money line.
At this point, Steele, I'm verbatim following what you're doing. You've been hitting. You've been right around some big payouts, cashing them, missing them closely. So I can't disagree with a single one, even if I wanted to. So 2+ points all day. That's been working for you.
Hammer it.
That's it. You know what? If I'm thinking about this a little bit more clearly, I really do love the Jets on the money line. I really do like Kyle Connor 2+ points. Scheifele, obviously the numbers are there. What I saw from Connor, though, man, this guy is good. And somehow still, I think, underrated. Anyway, love the bets. We'll be back in the next couple of days with more heat. Keep it tapped to the channel.
Like we said, make sure you're staying tuned in for the New Year's Eve special. We're going in hot and heavy into 2025 for your fantasy hockey leagues. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. For your second listen, though, you make sure you go check out the Locked On NHL podcast, where the season never ends, providing national expertise with a local perspective. You can find the link in the description below, so you don't need to go searching for it. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with your weekly matchups, hitting those big time bets on Monday, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.